Hello, fiber friend. I am so happy that you could join me today for this project. It should be a lot of fun. I am in need of some sturdy yarn, some sturdy wool for another upcoming project. And I have a breed of wool that fits the bill. I rediscovered it when I was sorting through my stash for Spin Together Week. And let's talk about the breed. American Karakul. Before we go to the spinning wheel, let's talk about this sheep breed because it's very interesting with a long history. In fact, one of the longest histories. The Karakul sheep breed comes from Central Asia. Central Asia is where animal husbandry began in terms of the history of humanity. So therefore, Caracal gets bragging rights as being one of the oldest breeds of sheep still in existence today. Karakul sheep were brought from Asia to America in the early 20th century. It was intended for a specific industry that didn't take off in America, but the breed ended up here anyway. In the 1960s, 70s, spinning experienced a resurgence. A lot of people were looking back to handcrafts and things that they could do from scratch during that time period. And so Caracal became a spinner's sheep. It became a sheep that people sought after to put in their spinners' flocks. And that's where it experienced a boom or a resurgence as a breed in America. Because Caracal has had an interesting history trying to find its place within the American breeds of sheep, it has been crossbred and has genetically diverged from its parent breed, the Caracal in Asia. So the sheep that I am using wool from is an American Karakul, and I will be specifically talking about the lock structures and characteristics of the American Karakul, which has now become a genetically different breed of sheep than Asian Karakul. So why did those spinners in the 1960s and 70s seek the Karakul fleece to spin from? If you're one of those spinners, leave me a comment and let me know. What do you like about Karakul sheep? The American Karakul has several characteristics that made it a very desirable sheep to put in a small flock. A couple of those reasons are in the care and management of the sheep themselves. They're parasite resistant, they are good mothers, and they also have a pretty friendly personality. They're not too huge, they're medium-sized sheep, so they're fairly easy to handle as well. But we're here to talk about the wool. So let's talk about those characteristics and why Caracal is a desirable wool for spinning. One of the first things that I'm sure you've already noticed from my wool sitting over here in my basket is that it has an array of natural colors. It can be anywhere from white to cream. It goes through shades of brown, grays, black. Some other benefits of the fleece is that it is very low lanolin. So again, people who were feeling their way back into the craft where the generations of knowledge had experienced a gap, and before the time of the internet, people were really having to trial and error their way through. So you can imagine a low lanolin sheep fleece would be much easier to handle. When I processed this wool, all I did was one wash with some down dish detergent in very hot water. I let it soak, I rinsed it, and that's all it took. It was a very simple wool to process that way. It is a very good felting wool, so I'll mention that because if you are going to work with some Caracal yourself, be careful you do not accidentally felt it. It really wants to felt and it loves to felt. It likes to felt. So look at it funny, it could felt. Watch out. Another interesting characteristic of Karakul sheep is something that I also have in common with American Karakul sheep, which is that as they age, they get gray hair. Karakul sheep are dual coated. And that means that they produce a long, coarser outer coat, and that averages about 30 or more microns. And that grows over a shorter, softer inner coat, which averages 20 or more microns. These coats can be separated and used for different purposes by combing, or they could also be blended together and used as a blended yarn. Do keep in mind that the coarseness of your yarn will always be the coarsest fiber in your yarn. So you cannot soften a coarse fiber by adding soft fibers to it. If you choose to use a dual coated fleece and blend the yarns, the softness of the inner coat will not matter. The feel of the wool will be the micron count and handle of the outer coat. The younger the Karakul sheep is, the softer the wool is. And so a lamb fleece will be much softer and could be an appropriate wool to use for something that touches your skin, like a scarf that would rub on the back of your neck. You don't want something coarse for that. And you can also separate the wool to have the softer for gloves or a hat or something of that nature, and then use the coarser wool, which this is actually one of the things the breed is well known for, carpet fiber. It's not a very squishy, lofty, fluffy wool. It is a very sturdy wool though, and it is something that is very durable. Whatever this is used in, it's going to last. Let's take a look at some of these locks. As you see, they are thicker at the base. The undercoat is shorter, and they taper towards the tip because the outer coat is longer. They are a very open lock. They're very easy to pick apart. The stable length that I have within this fleece varies from about 3 inches to 5 inches. Ideally, with a staple up to 5 inches, I would want to use combs. But I don't have any combs. It is next on my list of processing equipment, but I haven't had the chance to purchase any yet, so I am going to process this on my Roving Carter. I'm going to go card this wool, and I will meet you back here at the spinning wheel. Before I get carding, I need to tell you that a lot of the information I have used for this video has come from this book. This is an absolutely essential book in my spinner's library. It is called the Fleece and Fiber Sourcebook. If you don't have a copy and you're a spinner and you are going to be working with raw wool or even just different breeds, this book is a must. I will leave links to it in the description below. I have also gotten a lot of information about Karakul sheep from the American Livestock Conservancy. I am participating in the Shave 'em to Save 'em initiative. If you would like more information about that, I will also leave a link in the description below. I'm back. I have finished carding. This is the first bat that I made from the big pile of American Karakul wool that I'm working on. And I'm going to spin this because I want a test skein. I want to be sure that how I'm carding, because it's a blending process, is how I want it to be able to be spun and how I want my final yarn to look for my project. I'm using my Ashford Traditional today. It's an older model. It dates back to probably around the 1960s. So I thought that was fitting and appropriate because that's about the time that the American Karakul breed was making a resurgence within the communities of hand spinners. I'm going to open up this bat. It's called a Roving Carter because it is a carter, but it makes long strips of fiber, less like a bat, more like roving. It's an interesting sort of hybrid piece of equipment. I love it. You can see there's a couple pieces here of hay or whatever sheepy things sheep get into, but overall this fleece was extremely clean. I don't think that vegetable matter sticks in Caracal wool like it does with the heavier lanolin types of sheep. And that is another plus for spinners because you don't have so much picking to do when you're getting it ready. Okay, so this is set up just with a standard 7.5 to 1 wheel ratio, and it is on a Scotch tension system. So let me open up this leader and get started. There we go. I'll adjust that tension a little bit because this does have a longer staple, so I don't need as much twist as I would with something shorter stapled. This will be left as a single. I am not going to apply this final yarn. And you'll see why when I get to the final project, which is a mystery. Like and subscribe. Make sure you've got those notifications on so that you can see what's coming up. I'm getting a little kick up right here where the twist is a little overdone. So I'm going to untwist that with my fingers, draft out a little more. Like I said, this will be left as a single, so I will not have the opportunity to ply out any over twistedness. I want to make sure that it doesn't incorporate from the start. Okay, I think I need to draft a little faster than I am treadling, so I'm going to turn up my tension. I'm going to turn up my uptake a little so that it pulls harder and pulls in faster. There we go. I think this is better. This is going to be a pretty quick spin now that I'm getting a feel for it. All right, so it's a long, this is a better rhythm. It's a long draw-ish feel, but it's not like spinning from a rolag. It is drafting apart very easily though, and pulling right into that twist very smoothly. It's a smooth yarn. It feels smooth, a little drapey, but I think that's because of the less crimpy characteristic of this wool. I like the yarn. Just took a peek at it while the flyer stopped for a second there, and I like it. I like it. I'm very pleased. I'm very, very pleased. So let me get the rest of this spun up, and then we'll take a real good look. Let's see what we've come up with. Okay, we're back, and I have my little 1 yard nitty knotty here, my mini for my sample skein. I'm really, really liking how this turned out. Like I said, I noticed a couple things while I was spinning. One is that it's a silky yarn. It feels silky, but I would certainly not call it a soft yarn. If you like adventure, go for it. This wool is a very easy spin, but also very enjoyable. Just the feel of it, the texture of it, I like it very much. It drafts easily. It finds its place in the yarn easily. Does that make sense? There were maybe 2 times that I had to really stop and fix a little clump. It practically drafted itself. It wanted to come out into the yarn. It was a very smooth spin. Very enjoyable. I like seeing all the color variations as they came along in the process. That was a lot of fun. I think that I did over twist a little. When you work with a longer staple, it needs less twist to hold together. And I'm gonna have to slow myself down. I might even switch over to my Elizabeth and use the bulky bobbin, because then I can use the bulky whirl, which is a slower whirl. Changes the ratio so that the more I treadle, it is not as many turns of the flyer as it is with this. But this isn't terrible. It's not ruined. I know what I need to spin for the next one. And yeah, I'm pleased. Okay, here is the finished product. 2 ounces got me about 45 yards. It is about 11 wraps per inch. That's just where I wanted it to be. It does have a little bit of a halo. I wanted you to be able to see it in case you work with this wool, but I'm okay with that. I like that characteristic. Time to spin up another pile of yarn. I have work to do. So friends, I will see you